Do you expect to see American boots in Iran? Is it Kharg Island? Is it the enriched uranium? Is it something bigger?
I think all of those are things that are being considered. But what I think is really fascinating is that you're having a situation in which the war is being improvised. And we're hearing one day that, Trump is going to support the Kurds. And then 3 days later, he's given up on that idea. Suddenly we hear that Kharg Island may be struck. And then it was struck, but it was not striking at the oil facilities, clearly showing that Trump is very worried about oil prices going up. And that's not because of what would happen to Iranian oil, is what Iran would do to all of the oil installations in the GCC countries in retaliation, which again tells you that despite the fact that perhaps there are less drones being shot, etc., the Iranians still have plenty left and they can still hit those facilities despite the air defense systems, etc. So, constantly we're hearing change of plans, but I have to tell you, the idea of going in with ground troops, even if it were to take Kharg Island, for instance, this would provide the Iranians with a massive amount of American targets. And one of the things that Trump has successfully avoided so far is a large number of American deaths. It may be up to 8 or 9 or 10 at this point, but nevertheless, we're not talking about hundreds or anything like that. If you have ground troops actually entering the Persian Gulf, going all the way to the north of it to try to take that island, you're exposing US soldiers in a way that so far Trump has been very careful not to do. And if the island is taken, which probably is not a huge military undertaking, nevertheless, then they're just sitting there, not far away from the Iranian mainland at all, with all of these drones and short-range missiles that can strike them. Now, of course, the Iranians would at that point destroy their own island. But again, since this is an existential fight, I think it would be very dangerous to assume that they wouldn't.
Do you think we will see boots on the ground from all the indications you're seeing now?
I fear that it is a very significant likelihood, because I don't see that Trump feels that the cost of this war is really felt by the American public yet, which then means that he thinks that he has more time and he's desperately trying to turn the tables around in this war before his own base starts to turn against it. And so far, I think the support is relatively strong, although I think we're seeing some small cracks here and there.
Why? Why is that so important for Trump?
Well, at the end of the day, if his own base turns against him on this,
why is Iran, why is Kharg Island, why is the capture of Kharg Island so important? Is it all about the Strait of Hormuz? Is it the strategic benefits?
It could be many different things. It could, on the one hand, be the idea that Kharg will be used as a counter to Iran's control of the straits. So in order for the Iranians to get their island back, they would have to open up the straits. It could simply also be because 90% of Iran's oil currently transitions through Kharg Island, and that this would be a way of just ending their oil sales for now, which obviously would be very costly for them. During the Iraq-Iran war, the Iraqis kept on bombing that island. And the Iranians found workarounds. It was still very costly for them, but it didn't shut down their oil exports entirely. But I think what you're really pointing to, Mario, is that as the original plans failed, the administration is increasingly looking at more and more desperate options in order to turn the table on this. And this is, again, part of the reason why other countries are not joining in, because they're not seeing a plan. They're not seeing a pathway in which Trump will turn this into a success. They're seeing that the Iranians have a significant amount of leverage right now because of the manner that they have been able to not close the straits entirely, but to essentially what they call a smart closing. They're controlling who goes in and who goes out.
Yeah, you saw the reports that they're only allowing ships that pay in yuan. Well, at least that's.
I don't know if that is entirely true. I mean, that's something they've said, but you're seeing right now Chinese, Indians, Pakistani, and I believe Russian ships going through, and other countries have reached out to negotiate themselves a deal with the Iranians in order to be able to go in and out. And again, when France and Germany went to Iran to negotiate this free passage, it's important to note they didn't go to Washington. They went to Iran because it's the Iranis that currently are in control of it. And reality is that the United States actually does not have full air superiority over the straits. This is very important to understand. So much of the air superiority that the U.S. has is towards the western part of the country, the southern parts of the country, but not necessarily over the straits itself, and makes this much, much more dangerous.
Have you seen the reports about Iran mining the straits? That was a bit of a surprise to me. because they don't need to. As you said, they're not really closing the straits. They allow which ships to go through. There are reports that they were planning to mine the straits, that they've dropped about 10 to 12 mines. Do you think there's any truth to that? Could it be a symbolic action by Iran to warn the US about their capabilities? Or do you think the reports are purely false?
I don't know if they're entirely correct. I've tried to check and I've not seen clear evidence that it's true. It could be things that the Iranians are doing to confuse the US side. But once you mine the straits and you're not controlling any longer who's coming in and who's going out, that's
no one's going in.
That is the suicide option that the US feared Iran would go. They didn't foresee that the Iranians would go for a much smarter option, one in which it's closed for everyone else, but not for them and not for their allies or whoever is willing to pay them a price.
Yeah, exactly. I think that the reports that about 10 to 12 mines were dropped could be true, because it could be an indication of Iran saying, look, we're going to go all the way. And if you're going to continue doing, or if you're going to cross XYZ line, we will mine the straits. If you're going to invade Kharg Island, we will bomb the entire island, destroy our oil infrastructure in the meantime as well. Because as you said, this is an existential battle for them. You mentioned the Supreme Leader earlier. There's a lot of rumors on whether he's even alive. What do you know so far?
I think it's completely unclear where he is. I think we have more indications that he is alive, but not really whether he's in a state of being able to function effectively as Supreme Leader at this point. And frankly, it doesn't seem to be particularly relevant, because the entire war machinery is run by the IRGC, and the rest of the country, as a result, is also de facto run by the IRGC at this point. The Supreme Leader was already taken out of the operational command before the war started. It happened already in June. So whether he's present, whether he's issuing orders, etc., is frankly not relevant based on how the Iranians have organized their defense. Down the road, of course, it will be very crucial. But at this point, the Iranians don't seem to be thinking too much about the day after. In fact, this Supreme Leader was chosen, in my estimation, simply because of the fact that they were in a war situation. Had the decision been made in peacetime, it seems to me very clear that it would not have been Ayatollah Khamenei's son that would have become the next Supreme Leader.